Hey, what up everybody? This is Steve Breach coming to you here today with a video congratulating two of my most favorite players to ever watch play the game of baseball, making it into the Hall of Fame today. Today elected by the Baseball Writers of America. Ken Griffey Jr. and Mike Piazza were named to I was about to say the WWE Hall of Fame, but the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. A very select club of the best players to ever play the game. And I will say that honestly, as I get older, I still love baseball. But the more it seems, I tend to not really know 100% what's going on. The last year, the Atlanta Braves was the tough one to watch. I feel like I barely even know the players that are on my own team. Guys are coming and going. I know that I say that free agency is killing the game of baseball, and I think it's killing the world of sports to the point of where there's no real rivalries in the game anymore. And I feel like that the rivalry is almost more existent with the fans than it is with the players who play the game. But King Griffey Jr. and Mike Piazza are two guys that really make me remember my childhood growing up. I mean, everybody knew that the King Griffey Jr., the 1989 Upper Deck card number 1, was the chase card. It was the holy grail of baseball cards as a kid. It was a card that when you were growing up was easily obtainable. I can honestly say that I only held one my whole time. I remember a couple of years ago a report coming out, I think when the card turned 20, which would be in I guess that would be in 2009. But they were basically saying that if you would have done what people would have told you to do, and that would have been basically invest in King Griffey Jr. Upper Deck cards, you basically would have lost money on the deal, basically because the card never really increased in value. And plus, just all in all, sports cards as a whole changed. I mean, basically now it's about a grading system. You send your cards off to Beckett or PSA, and that makes it what the card is worth. Back in the day, you remember trading cards. You were looking up cards in the Beckett, and you knew that dented corner was bad, but if you wanted to have a card bad enough, it didn't really matter what the condition of the card was in. Basically, just to be able to say that you had the card was enough. But I remember buying packs of 1989 Upper Deck. They were, I believe, $1 a pack. Maybe they were 2. I don't think they were 2, but they could have been. I remember that they were. When Upper Deck came out, there was an astronomical price where it jumped the value of sports cards. And they would sign a deal with Upper Deck, Michael Jordan, Wayne Gretzky. They had the top star of every sport, and they would put the chase cards in there. They were introducing autograph cards, and then they introduced the jersey cards and things like that. And Upper Deck was always at the top of the line of making sure that they were giving their customers the best value. But King Griffey Jr., as I remember him, I have so many memories of watching him as a player. When I think of Griffey, I think of those 1989 to 1999, those first 10 years with the Seattle Mariners and everything that they went through. The Seattle Mariners were a real funny team that, they were really good, but they got to a point that almost as their star players started to leave, the team got a little bit better, which didn't make any sense at all. I believe Randy Johnson left first, being traded from the Mariners to the Astros. Some people might not even remember Randy Johnson pitching for the Astros. But the next season, the team increased in wins, and I believe that year is the year that Griffey left, followed by the next year is the year where A-Rod left, and the team got better after all 3 of those guys left, which doesn't really make any sense at all, thinking of losing 3 star players like Randy Johnson, Alex Rodriguez, and King Griffey Jr., 3 surefire Hall of Famers that are finding their way in sooner than later. I know there was a lot of stories about Barry Bonds and Mark McGwire not getting the votes, and people were surprised that they didn't get it. But there's a lot of things that were in the game back then, and that's not to say that they're not there now. I remember reading a story this morning before leaving for work that a New York newspaper was holding on to a story that the investigation that's into Peyton Manning right now with HGH and human growth hormone. Basically, they're thinking that Derek Jeter is involved in that as well, which would just kill it, man. I remember. There was always the chase over who was going to become the home run leader, and there was a real good time when I thought King Griffey Jr. was going to be that guy, and I think everybody did out there. Basically, after the trade, I know that King Griffey Jr. He wanted to be closer to his family. He had a home in Cincinnati. I believe that his real home was in Orlando, is where he lived. But I remember the story was after the pro golfer Stewart, Payne Stewart, something like that, died in a plane crash. They lived on the same street, and it sort of changed King Griffey Jr.'s life. The plane crash was in 1999, and by 2000, the Mariners had traded King Griffey Jr. to Cincinnati, sort of as a goodwill gesture. To King Griffey Jr. He was coming up on the end of his contract. As soon as he got to Cincinnati, he signed a new deal. I believe it was a 10-year deal at that time for a ton of money, but Griffey was never able to live up to the hype. He put up good numbers, but it seemed like every year was a nagging injury year after year after year before leaving the Reds and going to the White Sox. And then at the end of his year with the Chicago White Sox, he almost became an Atlanta Brave. And there was a little part of me that wanted King Griffey Jr. to be an Atlanta Brave, but there was a little part of me that knew that his star power wasn't what it once was, and I didn't really know how he was going to be able to help the team. And I believe that would have been the 2008 or maybe 2009 season. At that point, the Braves hadn't fallen off the face of the world in the East, and I thought they really could compete, and I thought that maybe him going back to Seattle was a better story. And he played there for a year before hanging it up, and I think basically almost Seattle kicked him out because he was hurting the team by being there, even though he wasn't really playing every day. But he was, a real hook to try and sell tickets there for Seattle, and that was the one reason why they really brought him back. Mike Piazza, going into the Hall of Fame, was a great catcher, whether it was for the Dodgers, whether it was for the Mets, or, even, as he traveled around at the end of his career, or even the 2 days that he played with the Florida Marlins before becoming a New York Met as a part of the whole deal. I believe he was traded in the deal that sent Gary Sheffield from Florida to the Dodgers, and then immediately Florida would turn him around and trade him to the Mets, and that was a part of their whole deal where they were trying to build up their team, and people thought they were crazy by selling off all of their assets, but I believe that would turn them into a World Series contender in the next couple of years. It took one team that was aged, that had won it all and immediately broke it up, but then turned right around and won again. So it is what it is. But Piazza, one of the greatest catchers to ever play the game. I mean, you got to put him right there. Him, Pudge Rodriguez. I never got to see Johnny Bench play, but I've heard the stories and seen a lot of films on him. The guy could hit, the guy could play, and Mike Piazza was always one of the best. And I know there's rumors out there about Piazza as well. Nothing that's ever been able to publicly link him to it, but I was really sort of surprised that he got in. He wasn't a first ballot Hall of Famer, but he deserved to be in my mind. Nobody went out there and played like Piazza. I had a chance to meet Piazza at he was playing for the San Diego Padres, and it was before a spring training game in Arizona. I believe this would be 2005. He was signing some autographs, and I was there on the rail, and my turn would have been next, but the kid, probably about 8 years old, leaned in over the rail, and I just let him go. It felt like a good thing to do. The kid getting an autograph from a surefire Hall of Famer. I'm sure that he was going to sign for me after the kid, but after he signed for the kid, he looked up and he said, "All right, sorry guys, gotta go. See you tomorrow." I'm like, I'm not gonna be here tomorrow, and I lost my chance, but it is what it is. But these guys going to the Hall of Fame is an awesome deal. I know there's a lot of talk about Tim Raines going in. Lots of talk about the 3 votes that Griffey didn't get. And honestly, in my mind, he deserved to be a 100% Hall of Famer. So did Mickey Mantle, so did Cal Ripken Jr. My boss put it best, basically, when we were talking about it, and he just basically said that, for a guy like Craig Biggio, somebody might want to get him voted in, and, you only get to vote for 10 players, and maybe you got 9 guys that you want to go in, that you want to give your vote to, and maybe Biggio is your 10th. You go for the guy like King Griffey Jr., who is going to get in, because, basically they're filming him waiting for the phone call on ESPN. Everybody knew that he was going in today. Maybe you're the one guy who doesn't vote for him, trying to help somebody else and able to get in. And even if they don't get in, maybe trying to encourage people to vote for him next year by showing that his, vote calculation has gotten higher. But today was a great day. I'm sure every year from here on out is going to be just great memories for me as a baseball fan growing up, with more and more guys that I, cherished watching as a kid go into the Hall of Fame.